those of you who don't know me, my name's Kat Georgie and I'm part of the wonderful team here at the Foundation for Alcohol Research and Education, or FARE. I'm feeling really grateful at the response that we've had to our invitation to you as part of our community to attend this webinar today. We've had more than 300 people register for today's event, and it shows how important our community is to achieving the change we're seeking to achieve here. I want to thank you all for making the time to come. I know how busy life can be and we really appreciate you making this time. And I want to start today by providing an overview of our new strategic plan. Then we will invite some of the members of our community to share how we'll be working together to create change. And please, if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, place them in the Q&A box. To start today's webinar, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we are meeting on today and to pay my respect to elders past and present. I'm joining from Ngunnawal and Ngambri country, and I encourage you to introduce yourselves in the chat box and share which lands you are joining from today. FARE has an ongoing commitment to being guided by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and organisations to work together to prevent and minimise the harm caused by alcohol and improve health and wellbeing across Australia. We strongly supported a yes vote in last year's referendum, and we have an ongoing commitment to do all we can to address the inequities that exist in health outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Now, this image that you're seeing on your screen right now is of our new strategic plan, one of the pages from the plan. And it includes a picture of Auntie Helen. And we worked alongside Auntie Helen to support her advocacy to stop Woolworths from building one of the biggest bottle shops in the country near her community, which has chosen to be dry. When I asked Auntie Helen if we could use this photo in our strategic plan, she said to me, "Of course, Bubs, anything I can do to help to make a difference." And inspired by Auntie Helen, we're committing to do all we can to make a difference. Our vision is for an Australia free from alcohol harms. And what we're seeking as a community is where healthy are well and where laws and policies and programs are fair, just and equitable. This statement acknowledges that we will need change across a range of areas if we're going to achieve our vision of an Australia free from alcohol harms. Our values guide how we work in this organisation each and every day. So when we are making decisions, we reflect on our values and we approach our work in ways that are true to our values. We are first and foremost collaborative. For many of you that I've had chats with, I will say that we can't and don't achieve any change on our own. The community that we have formed and partnerships that we have created help us to achieve outcomes and help us to guide our work. We are empathetic. Everything we do starts with people who are directly impacted by alcohol harms. We think every day about whether what we're doing is making a difference to people's lives. We are courageous. Big change only comes about if we do things differently and acknowledge the very significant vested interests involved in driving alcohol harm to maximise profits at the expense of our health and wellbeing. And we are impact driven. We measure our impact and we make decisions about how we approach our work based upon what works. Our new strategic plan is based on our understanding that creating change requires us to take action at many levels. And we also acknowledge that these are interconnected. We need to drive system change, and in developing our new plan, we've reflected on where we believe we can make the greatest impact. This model that I'm about to step through is based on the socio-ecological model for change, which has been adapted for public health and considers people, communities, culture and environments in which people live and how these factors contribute to and influence behaviours. First and foremost, we focus on individuals. Our first pillar is about building the capacity of individuals to drive change. Our second pillar is about how we drive change at the community level by raising community awareness of alcohol harms and ways to avoid these harms. Our third pillar acknowledges that institutions influence behaviours also, and one of these institutional drivers of harm is industry, and we have a focus on shining a light on particularly harmful behaviours. And of course, we acknowledge that governments can play a role in developing and implementing policies and programs that help to keep people healthy and safe and we seek to influence changes in public policy to guide this. So let's take some time now to unpack our work in each of these pillars. So when we talk about creating change at the individual level and building individual capacity, we do this by working alongside people who are directly impacted by alcohol harms. Programs like Voices of Change enable us to connect with people who have experienced alcohol harm to support them to create the change they are seeking in their community. One way that we work to build capacity is in elevating people's stories and supporting advocacy by people directly affected by alcohol harm. Now, this is a picture of Dylan, and Dylan died at the age of 26 to alcohol liver disease. I think we can all agree that this never should have happened. Dylan's mum, Rachel, reached out to us to share her experience and story. She mostly wanted to be heard and seen, and she wanted to make sure that people know Dylan's life and that his life matters. She shared the experience she's had as a mum who lost her son to alcohol and the shame and stigma that she had experienced, none of which should have ever happened. Despite so many people being negatively affected by alcohol, there is still so much stigma to overcome, and so many people are silent about their experiences because of this. Rachel sharing her and Dylan's stories helping to change this. And Rachel wants to achieve two big changes. She'd like to see alcohol products being labelled with liver disease warnings, and she wants a greater understanding and compassion for treatment of people with liver disease. Rachel's part of our community, and we supported Rachel to share her story with the ABC in a way that was respectful and highlighted the ways that she and her family felt. As one of the things that Rachel wants to see is a liver warning, we undertook a survey on warnings, and together with Rachel and the Australian Medical Association, we released the data on this showing strong support for this measure. We also supported Rachel to be involved in Q&A, asking a question about this to the Health and Aged Care Minister. Now we're supporting Rachel to connect with health professional colleges, to work with them to influence their training on this issue. And we are also supporting Rachel to share her story via a video so that she is able to talk about her experience in her own words. It is these deep connections and relationships that guide our work in our first pillar, and the capacity for us to walk alongside people as they create the change they are seeking in their communities. Our work with individuals is supported by our work with communities. We raise awareness for the development and delivery of evidence-based and innovative health campaigns. Our health campaigns are based on the evidence of what works, and they are values and strengths-based, and they always engage people directly affected by alcohol harms. Every Moment Matters is an example of this. As part of the National FASD program, which is endorsed and funded by the Australian Government, we've collaborated with organisations, people with lived experience and health professionals to develop this campaign. After 2 years in field, I'm so proud to say that this campaign is making a difference. Among people in the target audience for the campaign, there's been an increase in the proportion of women who say that they won't drink alcohol during pregnancy from 82 to 90%. And a decrease in the proportion of women who said they'd consume at least some alcohol from 15 to 9%. We're also seeing change at the population level. We've seen statistically significant increases in people who know there is no safe number of standard drinks that a person can consume when pregnant, from 73 to 79%, and an increase in awareness of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, or FASD, from 51.5% to 54.4%. These are huge changes, and this is just after 2 years. We've also partnered with No FASD and NACCHO to develop and deliver the National FASD program. So as part of our partnership, Strongborn was developed by NACCHO for rural and remote Aboriginal communities across Australia. And as part of this program of work, Aboriginal controlled health organisations in rural and remote Australia are able to access grants to deliver targeted campaigns for their communities. The first phase of the National FASD program is coming to an end, and we're working with the government to look at options for extending these highly successful and impactful campaigns and programs. We're also working in partnership with state and territory governments to raise awareness of other harms that result from alcohol use, and are developing some of these materials and resources for launch over the coming year. Taking a look now at our third pillar, which is increasing industry accountability. We exist because we, like many Australians, believe that the most important thing is the health, wellbeing, and equity in our communities. And we believe this should be prioritised ahead of vested interests. But there are many examples of companies that sell alcohol and trade in sharing data where they engage in harmful practices that fuel these alcohol harms that we see far too often across Australia. So as part of this strategy, we're committing to shining a light on these practices so that we can make recommendations to governments about ways that laws and policies can be strengthened to prioritise community health and wellbeing. An example of this is our focus on harmful product marketing. The digital environment has created a space where alcohol is inescapable, where people can be micro-targeted using a whole range of data, including previous purchasing behaviour. In the same way that people who see more ads for books are sold more books, this happens with alcohol also. But alcohol is an addictive product, so people who are most at risk are targeted more. The alcohol industry sells 36% of alcohol to 5% of people, which makes selling addiction part of its model for profitability. And this puts people who are doing it tough most at risk. We also know that kids are seeing ads for alcohol and are being targeted as being interested in alcohol, tagged as being interested in alcohol and specific alcohol products well before they turn 18. One estimate indicates that across all companies and industries, that they will have collected 70 million data points on kids by the time they reach their mid-teens. To shine a light on this, we seek to understand what is happening through research, and we engage in advocacy, awareness raising and policy work with a range of partners, including Vic Health. We also engage with people with lived experience to understand how they experience being targeted by alcohol promotions and what they want to see happen. We'll be continuing this important work as we need to ensure that the checks and balances we have are in place and are adequate to protect our kids and people who are most at risk. And our final pillar is driving policy change. Governments play a critical role in helping to keep families and communities healthy and safe, and we seek to understand areas of risk and where we can advocate for evidence-informed policies and programs to make recommendations to governments on laws, policies and programs that prioritise health, wellbeing and equity. We do this in a range of areas, and an example of this is our advocacy on the delivery of alcohol across Australia. The delivery of alcohol has exploded and has been amplified by COVID and the associated restrictions which moved everything online. Companies have taken advantage of this and laws and policies have not kept pace. And we're seeking to understand the risk of online delivery, and we have a lot more information about the types of sale and delivery that are particularly harmful and to influence policy to prevent the risk of harm. There have been some changes across the country in online delivery laws, with SA and NT making initial changes, and FARE has been working to influence change across the country, including in New South Wales and Victoria. To date, while some changes have happened, states and territories haven't moved far enough. And what we need to see is the introduction of policies that address the very basic community expectations around alcohol, like that IDs are checked to ensure that we're keeping kids safe, and that companies have responsible service of alcohol policies in place. But we also need measures introduced that really focus on the very specific environment for harm that makes every phone a bottle shop. We need to look at everything from marketing through to the way that a sale is made. And now for people, this is just a couple of clicks away. This year, we are working with Queensland, ACT and SA governments to inform these law changes. This work involves engaging with people directly impacted by harms, undertaking research, developing policy, engaging in conversations with decision makers and amplifying stories through media and digital media. And if you're in the ACT, keep an eye out for some of these activities during this week. So this is a very quick overview of our strategic plan. All of this information will be available online for you to take a closer look. And this is an introduction to some of the things we'll be working on over the next 4 years. But as I've said, this is all about our community and how we work collaboratively to seek change. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker for today, Jessica Birch. Jessica is a lived experience advocate who's living with FASD, and she is now, I'm very proud to say, part of the FAIR team. Jessica is going to share her experience of working with and alongside FAIR and what's to come. So thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Kat. It has truly been a privilege to work with you and the dedicated team at FAIR, and what an empowering experience it has been. In 2019, at 33, I was diagnosed with FASD, and in my mind, this confirmed that despite all my efforts, I had failed to launch, and I would continue to fail. FASD is a complex diagnosis, difficult to acquire and very confronting. It is rarely understood and heavily stigmatized. And it's important to understand that after years of inexplicable difficulty, my diagnosis left me with the belief that I had no value, that I had nothing to contribute, and that I would ultimately amount to nothing. My mother was cognizant of this and went to work learning everything she could about FASD, an expert in her own right. And she taught me how my brain worked, why I struggled, and highlighted the skills that I have and the tools, gave me the tools to navigate the difficulties. She introduced me to the NoFASD team and encouraged me to talk about my story, where I was supported and championed by NoFASD, and in particular, Sophie Harrington. And what I learned through this process created the fire in my belly, yet I couldn't see the way forward, and my relationship with FAIR began not long after. So my first introduction into the FAIR organisation began with the Alcohol Pregnancy Warning Label campaign, a hard-fought, decades-long battle. And FAIR approached me to participate, and the experience really changed my life. At a time when I was isolated and struggling, I was warmly, gently, and respectfully brought into the fold. And what FAIR illustrated to me was that there was a large community of people, from private citizens to decision makers, who truly care about the quality of life, health, and safety for individuals dealing with the consequences of alcohol harm in Australia. FAIR showed me that there was value in all that I had learned, and that I could harness this experience to help others in measurable ways. FAIR believed in me and had the tools and resources to support and elevate the voice of my lived experience. And that is what they have done. I have been steadily empowered through the positive support and enthusiasm of an exceptional team, where I felt safe, seen, and valued. And despite my disability, FAIR would continue to identify avenues where I could contribute in meaningful ways. So I was then invited to participate in the Victorian Voices on Alcohol Harm Network, funded by none other than Vic Health, which allowed me to really sink my teeth in and broadened my understanding of the work that FAIR does. Importantly, that FAIR values lived experience and really cultivated a real sense of solidarity between community members and the organisation. From all walks of life, without shame and stigma, we can come together and achieve shared goals. I feel we truly solidified our collaborative and working relationship when I was invited to share my experience for the Every Moment Matters campaign and Voices of Change. And being part of the rollout of FAIR's FASD program has been a significant point of pride. Building awareness around the risks of prenatal alcohol exposure is not an easy undertaking. The message is triggering for many. The evaluation of the harm is complex, the research is nuanced, and the stigma is acute. And FAIR's dedication to tackling an issue that has largely been pushed under the rug has the power to change the lives of literally hundreds of thousands of Australians. And, you know, to witness the campaign's national success is really a testament to the powerhouse that FAIR is. And I truly believe that we have indeed changed and are changing lives. Our work continued with the Red Shoes Rock campaign, where I was part of the organising committee, and which ultimately led me to speaking at the Red Shoes Rock Parliamentary Breakfast, advocating to our ministers, advisors, and politicians for all individuals with FASD. And in that moment, I truly felt that I had launched. Coming to terms with being an individual with a brain-based disability was perhaps the most difficult challenge of my life. And I really could foresee no avenue where I could be scaffolded to unlock the skills that I do possess. FAIR listened to my story, welcomed my contribution, and from one project, meeting, blog, campaign, project, and to the next, I was heard, included, and supported to offer my best. I'm very proud that I am now an official member of the FAIR team, and I'm excited and driven to further shed a light and hope for those that live with the consequences of alcohol harm. So thank you to FAIR and their partners who have supported this journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Jessica, when I hear you speak about all of those experiences that we've shared and the change that you have absolutely helped to drive, it's just incredible to see the type of impact we can have, and so exciting to think about the impact we'll have over the next 4 years. And Jessica, I just wanted to reflect on one thing that you said, the being scaffolded to unlock the skills I possess. I think it's just such a great descriptor, because you are wonderful and you are powerful and you can create so much change. And FAIR is just so fortunate to be able to help to contribute to that as part of this community. So thank you, Jessica. And I'm pumped to have you as part of the team. I now want to introduce Dr. Sandro Di Meo. Sandro is the CEO of Vic Health, which is a world-leading independent public health agency in Victoria. Sandro and I met in my first week in this job just over 4 years ago, and Vic Health and FAIR have shared a really strong partnership since that point. So over to you, Sandro.
Thanks very much, Katerina. So I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners, the land that I'm on here in Perth today, travelling for Vic Health, the Whadjuk Noongar people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my deepest respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to also extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today for this important event. And in the spirit of reconciliation, Vic Health recognises First Nations connections to land, sea and community, and acknowledges sovereignty was never ceded. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'd also like to acknowledge my fellow speakers today, Dr. John Patterson, CEO of the Aboriginal Medical Services Alliance of Northern Territory. Of course, Jess, incredible insight, such generosity and such power in your lived experience and your voice. And I'm thrilled that you've joined, slightly jealous, but thrilled that you've joined Katerina's team at FAIR. And of course, Shanna, it's wonderful to see you again, founder of Sober in the Country. And we've had the pleasure of working together now a few times, including, of course, when you so importantly and profoundly presented to Senator David Pocock and others recently at Australian Federal Parliament. So it's my absolute pleasure to be here today to be able to take part in this really important milestone. 2 months ago, I attended the Victorian Voices of Alcohol Harm launch of the research report. In fact, it was 13th of December, I think, so the time travels so quickly. And I'd really like to acknowledge again Jess, who spoke in the panel on the day, but also shared her story in that report and is, of course, speaking here again. Incorporating lived experience into the report shed light on the multifaceted nature of alcohol harm. It ensures that the report not only was data-driven, but also, and so importantly, grounded in lived experience of communities and individuals affected. Today, we celebrate and really gather to acknowledge and celebrate the launch of FAIR's strategic plan. And as I was reading the plan, my team always laugh because I never stick to my script, and I'm not going to again today. I really wanted to pull out, for me, fundamentally, we're very proud of our long history of working with FAIR. When I think of great leaders in public health in Australia, when I think of organisations and individuals, not just Katerina, the entire team, working on important but really difficult structural issues, understanding the kind of marathon nature of this challenge, understanding the sophistication, the nuance, and the unrelenting and often very vicious nature of the countercurrents that we face in this work. FARE really is the benchmark, and the organisation that I tend to refer others to when we're thinking about not just how we do great work in this space, but I think almost more importantly, how the work is done. So I'm thrilled once again in this strategy that it doesn't just talk about the what. The what is important, and we need to make more progress. We need to be more accountable. We need to have more lived experience voices, and we need to make sure that we get further much faster than we have in the last decade. But for me, the really exciting part of this strategy is the focus on how, the values, because ultimately that is what is going to get us further. That is what is going to allow us to create proper, real, meaningful structural change that is lasting and that matters to communities and individuals around Australia. Things like collaboration and FARE doesn't just talk about collaboration, they truly do it. The number of times that, Katerina and the team have done something for the betterment of the wider ecosystem, often not taking credit, but quietly working away in the background and delivering incredible results. But also understanding that health promotion is not something you do to communities, it is done with communities and often alongside or even behind communities. And that's really of the betterment to communities, not just here in Victoria, and why we continue to expand and grow our partnership with FARE as a critical partner in federal and state policy, advocacy and wider programs, but of course to the betterment of communities across our great nation. The second is, of course, courage, and I think if I have to think of a courageous leader, again, individual, but also organisational, I mean, tackling the harms of alcohol it has to be one of the hardest public health challenges facing Australia. The deep conflicts of interest that we have as a nation, the fact that we will sue other countries for taking actions that we've taken on tobacco when they try to do the same on alcohol. This is a very tricky issue. And we saw the fallout of that when FARE so successfully corralled and curated and really forwarded the charge on alcohol labelling just a few years ago. You need to have courage, you need to have a very clear long-term strategy, and you need to be a very effective unit to be able to work in this space. And I think calling out courage, not just of FARE, but also of lived experience experts like Jess, who so generously and courageously give their voice and their experience. I was delighted to see that front and centre in the strategy. Empathy is also very, very important. All too often, these issues fall to individual blame and shame, which feeds into the narrative of industry, it divides the community, and it ultimately intimidates and makes individuals affected by these issues feel as though they have no voice and have no place. And so calling out empathy is a central tenet, making sure that trust is first and foremost, but also that we're really calling out and tackling issues of stigma, of individualisation and over biomedicalisation of this issue, I think is just absolutely critical. And finally, of course, all of a strategy ultimately in an organisation like FARE is about delivering impact. And as an agency of government entrusted by the people of Victoria to get the best possible value out of the hard-earned tax dollars that we're entrusted with each year, I feel very confident investing in the work, the team and the outcomes that FARE deliver. Whether it's been across labelling, their deep, sophisticated understanding and ability to further government relations causes, their marketing ability, and of course, their work even on things like digital privacy and national campaigns. Again and again, FARE have delivered over the last years, and we know that they will continue to do that over the coming years of this strategy. So once again, I really want to call out this strategy and also both Katerina and FARE as a benchmark, not just for alcohol advocacy and harm reduction, but I think more widely, as a leader in public health here in Australia. And we look forward to continuing our close collaborations over the years to come. It's been a pleasure to be able to say a few brief words and support this important launch today.
Thank you so much, Sandro. as I will say over and over again, it's the partnerships that help us all to work together to create change. And that partnership with you and with Vic Health has been so important to FARE. And I'm just reflecting on how you spoke about understanding the marathon nature of this challenge. It's something that we all really seek to do, and it's great to hear that that's something that you see in our team and our community, and our ability to look at these things differently. So thank you so much for joining us today from Perth, even. Okay, so our next speaker is Dr. John Patterson from AMPSANT. AMPSANT is the peak body for Aboriginal controlled community health organisations in the Northern Territory. Now, John, or Pato, has been called away today, but he sent a video to us to share with you all for our launch. So thanks so much for this, Pato, and we'll play that now.
Good morning, everybody. My name's John Patterson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Aboriginal Medical Services Alliance, Northern Territory, otherwise known as AMPSANT. I'd like to make some observation and comments about FARE and the relationship we had with them, and a strong, very strong relationship that was established in the 2020, year of 2020. And it came about with AMPSANT opposing a liquor license for Dan Murphy and the Woolworths Company to build a huge liquor outlet in the suburbia Darwin in close proximity to two discrete Aboriginal communities. It was then that we opposed publicly and saw it as a threat and an inconvenience to those Aboriginal community that were nearby where the proposed site was. In our efforts to campaign and look at other partners and get other similar-minded organisations, both at a Northern Territory level, local level and nationally, it was FARE that came to the forefront, immediately put a call through to myself and asked whether we needed their support and assistance. Upon receiving that phone call from Katarina at FARE, the board of AMPSANT and its members decided, yes, we needed to form that partnership because we needed a national peak organisation that has the expertise, the knowledge, the understanding and the wares of how to lobby and advocate at a national level to support our objection here in the Northern Territory and specifically on the Dan Murphy project. We felt that without FARE, we would not have won this battle that we did and persuaded and convinced the Woolworths Group to withdraw their application to build the Dan Murphy superstore in suburbia Darwin. Our relationship with FARE has remained strong, very strong, and we need organisations like FARE to support, provide the appropriate assistance, to do all the background work and data, statistics that we don't have at our disposal or fingertips. And it is with their relationship and networks and contacts at a national level that supported us in our objection to the Dan Murphy site, was instrumental, I believe, in why the Woolworths Group did not want to go ahead with the project, with the build. With the ongoing changes and laws around alcohol consumption, laws around and decisions being made by peak alcohol associations and liquor commissions and all those other governing bodies that make decisions around alcohol, we need community organisations such as ourselves in partnership with FARE to continually monitor and keep abreast of all these applications that obviously get put forward by liquor outlets and big companies that have liquor licenses and responsibility for the sale of alcohol and other similar products. We need to be aware of their applications and where they're going, because if we don't keep a close watch on that, there is the danger. There is the possibility of a superstore like the one that was being proposed here in Darwin by the Dan Murphy and Woolworths Group that would go through unvetted, without community involvement or input. And we need to keep those peak authorising agencies accountable. Make sure that there's community consultation. Make sure that there's community engagement. Make sure that other key stakeholders that, obviously pick up the pieces of what alcohol does in our community. And we've seen that from time to time on a daily basis, what the consumption of alcohol can do in regards to alcohol, domestic violence, all the atrocious incidents that we see, like I say, on a day-to-day basis. So we need to keep these suppliers of alcohol and other products that do harm to our communities accountable. And we believe that it's organisations like FARE that can do that at a national level in partnership with us. The partnership and relationship we had with FARE in our struggle and win eventually was very strong. There wasn't a day or a week gone by when Katerina and the team in the FARE office would contact us to see how we're going, would support us with all the drafting policy advice. And, they understood where they sat in this process. It was up to us then, once we received all that sort of information and advice, we would make the local decision here. But I want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank FARE, specifically Katerina and the team that worked with us tirelessly over it seemed like a 2-3 year period, but gee whiz, it was constant. It was full on. And to everybody's credit, we won the battle at the end of the day. So big thank you to FARE, and we look forward to our continued relationship.
Thank you, John, for sharing that message. I think that this ongoing partnership with AMSAN in the Northern Territory shows how FARE can act as an engine room to support organisations who have that local knowledge to create change at that community level. I'm now going to pass to our final speaker today, who is Shanna Wan. Shan is someone that I called even before I started in this job at FARE because I was so excited to meet her. Shan is the founder and CEO of Sober in the Country, which is a national organisation that works with people in the bush to make sure that they're not isolated in seeking change in the way that they look at alcohol and their experience with alcohol. So Shan, I'm very excited to introduce you. Oh, Shan, you just need to unmute.
Oh, hang on, it's a miracle. Can you hear me?
We can.
Can I just tell you the funniest thing? Full credit to Kate. I spent the first 3/4 of this meeting trying to get into it, just because apparently everything about me is always just a little bit special. I just couldn't get in, couldn't get on. Kate was as cool as a cucumber. We got there in the end. So, Jessica, I'm really sorry that I missed most of your talk, but what I caught made me feel pretty inspired. You are an amazing lady. Thank you. And Sandro, you are a legend. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Nice to see you again. And you, darling Caddy, you're such a beautiful human. You're such a leader, and you've become a friend of mine. And it's just been so lovely to listen to these others before me speak about you in the way that you jolly well deserve at the helm of FAIR. And for people who are just tuning in today, yeah, it's interesting. So Sober in the Country, which is the charitable organisation that I founded in 2019, in the middle of the bush, with no idea what the hell I was doing, if I'm being honest. I just knew I wanted to do something good and something positive to help affect change and to bring a lived experience voice of recovery from alcohol addiction, and maybe, if I possibly could, along the way, help one or two people. It became much bigger than that. And in my opinion, the reason for our reach and our impact today is not, unfortunately, just because alcohol addiction, abuse and misuse is a huge issue in the outback, but it's because of collaboration with other organisations. And, you know, it's funny, Kat did in fact ring me before she had even begun her role as the new CEO, and I just thought, oh, I like this chick, she's a legend already. You know, because I was like, this is a girl after my own heart. I shouldn't say chick or girl, sorry, I'm a country person, I'm so casual. It's part of what also makes me special. But when people are collaborative and friendly and warm and real, it's just a deal breaker, you know. And that's been the forefront of how I've run this charity since day one. And I'm no expert, and I'm not the best or the first person to ever, you know, create a charity or a conversation or to be a lived experience ambassador. But I have always been fiercely determined that we are always collaborative and welcoming and warm. And so it was such a natural fit to link in with FAIR. And so I just really do echo what Sandro and Jessica and the other fellow John said about FAIR's leadership and what they've done collectively throughout the, you know, the whole game of discussing the truth of alcohol harm in this country. They do have an engine room, and they are fair dinkum, and they are collaborative, and they're not just talking about what could be done, they're saying, how can we do this? And an example I can give you of that currently playing out in action is Sober in the Country is pretty small. We have a board of directors and only 2 employees, right? So it's always amusing to me when people call and ask if they can speak to my PR person or my photographer, and I'm like, I'll just grab her for you. We're a tiny team and we can only do so much. The reason we're able to do so much more than what 2 people can do is because I can pick up the phone and ring my mate Kat and say, mate, I need a hand. I'm struggling and I've got this dirty big deep dive I need to do on some amazing data, and I don't have the skill or the manpower, and I need some help. Can you help me? 90% of the time the answer is absolutely. What do you need? When do you need it? And I cannot begin to tell you the power of that for a small organisation, to just be able to work with another crew and not to view them as another sister organisation. It's almost like another team. It's just part of a big national team with the same focus, with the same exact goals. There's just so much power in that, and I think every single one of us, and there's 166 people here, hello to you guys wherever you've zoomed in from. There's a really powerful lesson in that for all of us, which is when we do this together and when we learn from each other and when we lift each other and honour and recognise and amplify voices, not just of expertise and management and leadership experience, but lived experience. Well, we've got the power, and as Sandro said, and Jessica I think also said, we can impact hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives. It's crazy. And that is how we change. This is how we change this dreadful story that needs to change. And you know, Kat has been so gracious. I've now enjoyed the opportunity, as Sandro mentioned, I jumped in on a Zoom and met Mr. Pocock, Senator Pocock. Haven't had enough caffeine. And yeah, it was crazy. I was just my usual self, and I was pretty you know, I was pretty raw and pretty real, and I don't know any other way to be. What you see is what you get, and I think that that's something that is true for FAIR and true for all these amazing people who chip in and help. So that's what I just wanted to say, is that we don't operate effectively in silos. We operate together as a collective and as a team. And I'm just so grateful for your leadership, Kat. I'm so grateful for FAIR as an organisation, and I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope for the future of where we're going as a country with changing the narrative around booze, you know, in Australia and also in the bush. We've got a hell of a long way to go, but gee whiz, we've come a long way too. And I just feel hopeful, and I feel very, very humble to be part of such an incredible group of humans, whether it's the person who's, you know, just left some anonymous comments about their experience, and all the people listening, whether it's I know that Andy, hi, from Etch, Nolene from Rural Sobriety, you guys, all these people are here together today with a common goal and purpose. And so I guess I just want to say thanks, Kat. Thank you, FAIR, for showing us how it's done. Thank you for the work that you've put in to this strategic launch. And I know you're going to continue to lead like the boss lady that you are. And yeah, it's really great to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Shan. Shan, I loved when you said that it's just like we're part of a big national team with the same focus and the same goals, because that's exactly how we feel with everyone who's trying to achieve this big change together. And I share your feeling of hope. And I know whenever I pick up the phone and call Shan, and I called Shan last week Shan was 9 years sober, which is incredible. I just know at the other end I'm going to get a hi, Caddy, and we're just going to chat about how we can just keep working together to create this change. So thank you. I just wanted to, I'm going to go to the couple of questions that we have today, but I also just wanted to acknowledge some of the comments in the chat. I'm not very good at monitoring chats while listening to speakers, but there is just a couple of things that have jumped out. And I want to make sure that we're always listening and responding. So Lee, that's an excellent point on having that information line. I know that Alcohol Change Australia is doing some work on what health warnings might look like. And I'll make sure that our team provides that information to help to inform the need for a helpline number on a warning label as well. It's really good input and feedback. Emily, I really want to thank you for sharing your experience through the chat. And I 100% agree with you that there is this shame and stigma and silencing. And I always think that that shame and stigma should sit with the companies who are engaging in predatory behaviour and harmful tactics, and not with the people, the many, 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 many people across the country who are experiencing this harm from alcohol in its many forms. So thank you so much for sharing your comments in the chat as well. We also have a couple of questions. So to Claire, Tasmania wasn't mentioned when discussing the work being mentioned across the jurisdictions. Can you please update on this state? Claire, the example that we provided was around online delivery, and it's a great comment that you made, because Tasmania is a state that hasn't made a commitment to making change in this space yet. The states of Queensland, SA and ACT are making commitments to change this year, and WA and New South Wales are looking at second round changes. We're very aware that we also need to do some work in Tasmania to keep that progress going, and fully intend to have those conversations over the course of the strategic plan. Another thing is that we're really pleased to have a partnership with the Tasmanian government, which we'll be making some more formal announcements on over the next year, to do some awareness raising at the community level with our friends and partners in Tasmania. So please stay tuned on that. So that's a question there. We've got here, has anyone had any success in engaging with obstetricians and paediatricians with regard to FASD diagnosis and treatment? I can see the note there. It doesn't have a name tied to that comment, but if you just want to send a direct message or email to us, we'll make sure that we can connect you in with No FASD, who has a really great database and list of FASD informed health professionals. Because I know that there's definitely some gaps in knowledge and awareness across the country, but there are some people who are FASD informed, and we can make sure that you have that connection as well. Okay, and it would be great to see the upsell on alcohol delivery on platforms such as Uber Eats abolished. 100% agree. And this is something that we are really trying to shift, the way that that aggressive marketing happens in that online environment. So we 100% agree with that, Ange, and it's something that we're definitely trying to drive change in. I want to start wrapping up because I am conscious that everyone's been so generous with their time today. And I want to thank you all for the time that you've taken to be here. I want to thank Sandro, Jessica, Shan, and John for sharing your experiences of the way that we've worked together in the past and the way that we're going to continue to work together in the future. These partnerships absolutely give me hope. And this network and this community of people who've joined online. And so to that point, I really encourage you, if you haven't yet, to reach out to the team. So connect with us. We're going to put ways that you can do that in the chat. Share your ideas with us. Share your story with us. Share the way that you want to connect with us and work in partnership with us. We always respond, and we will respond. And we'll certainly try and work out ways that we can help to work together to amplify the impact that we're creating. I also just absolutely 100% want to acknowledge the incredible team that we have working within the organisation here at FAIR. If nothing is possible without community, and nothing is possible without the team of dedicated people who are in early, going through reams of data today around a particular release later this week. There's just always constant activity, always phone calls, such commitment and passion. And I 100% think that I work in the absolute best team in the country. And so I'm just so grateful to the commitment that each and every person who works at FAIR makes. So thank you everyone for joining today. Please jump online and check out our strategic plan. We'll drop some comments in here and let you know where you can find that information, but we'll also send a follow-up email with that information as well. Continue to connect with us. And I'm confident if we keep working together in this way, that we are going to create change, and we are going to see this vision of an Australia free from alcohol harms. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.